Hi, this is Alex from devstories.eu. Azure Pipelines, Episode 7 of 10. The most reliable enterprise pipelines do not just run blindly from top to bottom. They react dynamically when things go wrong, tearing down infrastructure after a crash or skipping heavy test suites during a minor hotfix. To build that kind of resilience, you need dynamic control, conditions, and expressions. Every job and step in Azure Pipelines has a condition attached to it, whether you write it explicitly or not. By default, the system applies a built-in condition called succeeded. This means a step only executes if all its previous dependencies finished without throwing an error. If step 1 fails, step 2 gets skipped automatically. People often misunderstand when these checks happen. A condition evaluates whether a step should run, and it does this completely before the step or job begins. A step can never use a condition to evaluate its own internal output. The condition is the gatekeeper standing at the entrance. It looks at the state of the pipeline up to that exact moment and decides if the step is allowed to start. Sometimes you explicitly need a job to run when a previous step breaks. Take a deployment job that spins up temporary test infrastructure. If the deployment crashes halfway through, the default behavior skips the rest of the pipeline. Your temporary servers stay online, silently burning through your cloud budget. You fix this by adding a dedicated cleanup job at the end of the pipeline, but you change its condition from succeeded to failed. Now, this cleanup job ignores successful runs completely. It only wakes up to destroy the temporary infrastructure if the primary deployment jobs crash. You are not limited to basic status checks like succeeded, failed, or always. You can write custom expressions to evaluate variable states and make granular routing decisions. Azure Pipelines uses a functional syntax for these expressions. Instead of writing mathematical symbols, you use named functions. If you want to check if a variable equals a specific value, you use a function called EQ. You open parentheses, pass in the pipeline variable you were checking, add a comma, and provide the value you expect. You can combine multiple checks by nesting these functions. Suppose you have a release job that should only run if the pipeline succeeded and the current branch is main. You start with an AND function. Inside its parentheses, you pass two arguments. The first argument is the succeeded function. The second argument is your EQ function, which compares the source branch variable against the text string for the main branch. The release job will only trigger if both statements evaluate to true. Using expressions lets you build pipelines that adapt to the context of the run. Before we wrap up, if you want to support the show, you can search for Dev Stories EU on Patreon, which is always appreciated. Here's the part that matters. True pipeline resilience does not come from preventing every possible error, but from using conditions to ensure your system knows exactly how to handle failure when it inevitably happens. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.